Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dead Man Walking Podcast. I'm your host, Repeatedly Dead Fred, author of the medical trauma memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times, which is actually what happened to me. I got the name Repeatedly Dead Fred. Today, I'm talking for the first time with somebody I've sort of known for a long time, Amy Jo Holcomb, and we met through Jen Stevens, I believe, way
Yes.
back in the day, and we have some sort of tie to intermittent fasting. But I think Amy has a fascinating story that we're going to get into. So, Amy, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So why don't I throw it to you and you can tell us
Okay.
your superhero origin story? Then we'll chat.
Well, I'm flattered to be considered a superhero that has a story to tell. Some days it doesn't feel like that because I have encountered sort of a roller coaster in the last year or so. But yeah, I remember you from Jen's original Facebook group that I stumbled across early in 2020, which is when I started intermittent fasting. I had some work friends that were doing 16 and 8 dirty fasting, which,
Oh, it's like dirty fasting.
I know that dirty fast. Um, and if this was my last ditch effort before weight loss surgery, I had ballooned up to a little over 300 pounds in 2008 and stayed there till about 2012. And I lost about 50 pounds and I had a hip injury in 2016 and the weight was starting to come back on. And when I saw 272 at my orthopedist office in November of 2019, I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. And so my friends said, well, this is not a diet. You can eat whatever you want. You just eat it within 8 hours. And I said, well, I can do that. I'm going to start after the holidays because, you can't possibly diet from October to January.
Hmm.
And on January the 6th, which is the day I'm a school teacher, the day I started back to school from Christmas break, I started my first fast at about 15 hours, is what I was aiming for. And I think I took a screenshot of it. I went back and found it in Jen's old group. I was doing some fishing on Facebook for intermittent fasting, and I came across Jen's Delay Don't Deny group. And that was on January the 8th, I think. And then I was introduced to a fasting timer, and I was dug into all of the clean fasting. Uh, and in June of 2020 is when Fast Feast Repeat came out. And by then I was already pretty solidified at around 18 hours, but the excitement was growing in the group and I got my hands on the book. And the first year, I lost about 60 pounds. So I have no idea what I weighed the very first day. I
Mhm.
only know what I weighed at my doctor's office in November before I began in January. So I lost about 60 pounds the first year, and that's COVID year. Everything was shut down until I went back to work in August. But I tell people, I think for me, with I didn't hate the time at home. I was with my family. We, cooked a lot of things, did a lot of projects at home. I was able to stay busy, but I was not in pain. I was feeling better. That hip
Mhm.
injury had caused me a lot of trouble, lots of nerve pain stemming from that injury. And I was just living from, day to day there for a few years, just, taking one pill to get me up out of the bed, going to work, taking some more when I got home to try and get some sleep. And after 2 weeks, I felt so much better. So that became my why, and it's still my why.
Isn't that
But
amazing?
yeah,
And
yeah, the
and I think
inflammation.
that was the most amazing thing to me. I mean, out of the dozens and dozens of positive things that have happened to me,
Yeah,
beyond the weight loss, the the way it literally evicted the inflammation and pain out of my
yes,
entire body, probably
yes.
within 2 or 3 months.
Yes. Yeah. Within 2 weeks, literally, I remember at that point thinking, okay, I have no idea because I didn't weigh the first month. I have no idea how much weight I've lost. I mean, I could tell I was not as swollen and all that, but I was like to myself, I was like, I can do this because if it keeps me from being in excruciating pain, I mean, I have to do this, right? So I lost about 60 pounds that first year. And then 2021 was the worst year of teaching ever because you didn't really teach. You were worried about sanitizing desks and everybody wearing a mask. And so it was stressful. But what happened to me was my planning period was at 1 o'clock. Everybody had to do everything in the classroom that year. You couldn't go to break, you couldn't go to lunch. So I said, I'm not going to break my fast with 25 teenagers breathing and eating and salivating in the room with me and watching me. I'll just wait until they leave. So I settled in at about 19 and 5.
Okay.
Uh, O'Madgen's way, which you and I know, a lot of people, some people open with their main meal and then close with something smaller later. I opened with something small at work, and then I would have dinner with my family when I got home. And so I saw some significant changes then, but in March of 2000, well, it was March of 2021. I had dabbled in ADF a little bit, but I
Mhm.
introduced with regularity. I was doing 2 days a week of a down day with the mini meal. And that's what got me below 200 pounds. That's what I liked. I still like it a lot. I'm very passionate about that modified ADF. And I I got down, I think my lowest was in 2022, the summer my son got married. I wasn't actively trying to get, I wasn't dieting along with fasting, but, I knew my son was getting married. I wanted to be pretty in my dress and all that stuff. So I was probably watching my food choices a little bit better than I am now. Um, and I hit 178. That's the lowest I've ever seen. So my official weight loss from 272 to 178, I mean, I have experienced a near, excuse me, 100-pound loss with intermittent fasting. So,
Amazing.
yeah, it is amazing. And all I do is I just have an eating window every day. Some days it's maybe 2 hours. Some days it's, you know, 12 hours. I've been as long as, 12 hours. I just make it work for me. Um, in I've pretty much after 178, I creeped back up to about between 182 and 185 is kind of what I call my body's happy place, that
Mhm.
set weight that it really likes because I was down to my high school size, but I weighed a little more. I got back down to in a size 12 from about a size 24.
Mhm.
And that was my high school size, but I was weighing in the 180s instead of the like late 160s, 170s, right? And we all know about body recomposition.
Mhm.
Uh yeah, thanks to body recomposition. That was kind of where I felt good. And the last time I stepped on a scale before the windfall that has now happened to me, and you can tell me if you want me to go right into this or because you we said we were going to talk about some adversity, and I've had plenty of it.
Sure.
Okay. So to make a really long story short, um, I got COVID in December of 2020, and I went back to work after Christmas holidays in January and donated blood, which I'd never done before because I don't have really good veins. But I did it because I wanted to donate plasma. That was what You remember everybody was donating plasma at the time to give antibodies. And I wanted to do that because my parents are older and, I wanted to contribute. And 2 days later, after I did that, I did it against the advice of a lot of people who said, your body may not be ready for this yet. And apparently it wasn't, because I was in an ambulance 2 days later. Since having COVID and donating blood and wiping out my whole system, I have been diagnosed with alpha-gal, which is a tick-borne illness that causes an allergy to non-primate mammalian meat. I believe, and some of my doctors believe, I probably had it, because if you live in the southeastern United States, you're going to get bit by ticks and chiggers. But my immune system was able to kind of keep it at bay, but I pretty handily wiped it out when I donated blood, I believe. So I've been diagnosed with alpha-gal. And the way I found that out was I wound up in an ambulance again from an anaphylactic reaction to pork. I've also been diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome, which is there's no cure for either of them, and there's no explanation with mast cell as to what triggers a reaction. It could be the water I'm drinking, it could be the clothes I'm wearing, could be fumes in the air. I had to have 2 rounds of iron infusions. It threw me into perimenopause. I had a hysterectomy. This was all by November of 2021. So 2021 was a really difficult year, even though I still lost weight through all of this. Okay. And all the crazy, crazy things that have happened to me, in March of 2023, so last year, I was not weighing anymore, because I knew my body was fighting itself all the time, and I was doing good to maintain in the 180s. I was content there, and I stepped on the scale in March of last year, and I was 185, and I thought, well, I'm okay with that. May 5th of last year, my mother had a catastrophic hemorrhagic stroke at home with my dad, and I left work that day, and for the next 3 weeks, my mother, unable to speak, unable to move, she wound up on a ventilator, and the doctor felt we could try to extubate, that her lungs would be strong enough, and she was not. So after 3 weeks in and out of critical care, we wound up putting her in hospice. And my mother passed away on the 27th of last year. My dad, they had been married almost 51 years. My dad was just unable to go home alone, and so he moved in with me and my husband. My son is married and was at school at the time, so we had plenty of space and time as empty nesters. My dad then found out he had a giant melanoma on the top of his head that had to be removed, that required lots of care. And it looked like something out of a horror movie. It was terrible. Found out he had an inguinal hernia also. So my dad needed me. He needed to be here because my mother was not there to help take care of him. And it was a really hard year. It's the only way I know to put it, without my mom. And dad went back home. He was able to go back home, I think about February of this year. He finally felt comfortable going back home by himself, but he's been here since then because he had to have the hernia surgery, which happened end of the spring semester for me. So again, I'm a school teacher. He was able to stay here, and I was able to help care for him. But I would not get on the scale for a long time. I mean, I knew I had put on some weight. I've had several. Oh, the other thing is I've been diagnosed with vasovagal syncope, which is a type of dysautonomia. That is usually brought on by extreme stress, and I've been under a lot of it. So I have, my heart will, I call it flood. It gives me the flutters, and I get weak and lightheaded and all that kind of stuff. So I've been under a lot of stress. I hit menopause in December of last year officially. I'm on hormone replacement therapy for that. I don't know that it's helping anything, but April the 24th, I finally worked up the courage to step on the scale. And I say courage because I know the scale is just a tool. It's not the only barometer of my success. And I knew that it was not going to change anything about what I was going to do. I'm an intermittent faster forever, for life. You know, God willing, nothing happens to me. I have fasted every day for 4.5 years. But I needed to see, I knew that some damage had been done. And so when I stepped on the scale, I saw 203. And so I've gained 18 pounds, but I've also been through a lot in the last year. So,
That's a pretty
that's
balanced.
kind of,
That's a pretty balanced outlook.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
and I find when I tell people I can't see myself ever stopping intermittent fasting, it's just
yeah,
like, well, once you've lost the weight, why would you continue? It's not just about that. The
no,
entire package.
it is because I know without a doubt that I would be physically and mentally, if I were my old self that ate from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to bed. Literally. I mean, we're talking, probably 16 hours of the day, off and on. I was eating something, drinking something, diet drinks, flavored water, pass by in the teacher's workroom and there's snacks on the table, grab a Hershey's Kiss or grab some cheese and crackers or whatever. I probably, honestly, Fred, I would probably be bedridden. um I mean, I have a lot of things that are going on in my body all the time. I've seen all kinds of different specialists. I've seen an acupuncturist, all of these crazy conditions that I now have to deal with. You never know by looking at me. Like, I can be a very sick woman, and then the emotional stress of losing my mom, and not just the act of her dying, but and I know you know this, and I suppose your listeners do. If you are in hospice care, you are basically helping them die painlessly. And so, you hit that button that pushes that morphine, and you watch that last breath come. It's very, very traumatizing, very traumatizing. And I still sometimes have a hard time with that. But the alternative is you leave in a feeding tube, and you leave in a colostomy bag, and you leave in a, you know, she's just a vegetable. And so the whole thing was very traumatic. That, on top of all of the things that go on in my body all the time, I think it is pretty balanced for me to be able to look at you today and say, I have to be okay with this 18 pounds because I've been through a lot. And then you add hormonal issues and menopause on top of that. Um, I keep my fasting insulin is low. My C-reactive protein, which tests levels of inflammation in the body, is low. My cortisol, I have a nurse practitioner who will do anything I need done. And
It's amazing.
that's, yes, I think that's something that I don't stress enough with people in my intermittent fasting community. I try to, is that if you don't have a healthcare advocate, you need to jump ship, and you need to find somebody who will be an advocate for you. And my nurse practitioner is an advocate for me. And so she said, we need to get your cortisol tested, because I wanted my cortisol tested. And it was on the high of normal. This has been about a month ago. So I'm hoping that means that things are slowly beginning to calm back down. I will be the first to admit that a lot of this is choices in my window, because we all know, as Jen says, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't eat whatever you want, in all caps. I can still see that in Fast Feast Repeat, just glaring at me. That was one of the biggest things I took from the book, is what delay, don't deny, and Fast Feast Repeat really means. So that's what I'm working through now, is making better choices in my window. I'm a volume eater. In an hour, I can eat a lot of food. And if it's a lot of junky food, I can eat a lot of junky food. And I can totally, cancel out any of the fasting and the healing that I've been doing while I was in a fasted state, by eating lots of processed sugar and other processed junk. It's really been the alpha gal it threw me a curve at first because it limited my proteins, but it also helped me find other options that were healthy for me that I might not have considered before. Lots of raw veggies are something that I need, and I try to incorporate. Everybody who knows Amy Jo knows that she loves avocado toast with eggs. I mean, I was not that person before. So it's been, I won't call it a blessing, but it has helped me kind of fine tune my diet, the way I eat and the what that I eat in my eating window. I've had to cut out burgers and bacon and barbecue and stuff like that. That, not that it's bad for me, but I feel like before I was it was, I might open my window with a cheeseburger and french fries and that kind of stuff, which you can do that if you want to, but it's not ideal, if we're being honest here. So yeah, it's just been a crazy, probably 16 or so months for me. But I'm also a certified health coach. That's something I did, my journey in intermittent fasting. And it's like you talked about, the weight loss is one part of this. The journey towards just wellness, overall wellness, led me to want to learn more about health and wellness. So I did get my health coaching certification, and I have clients that I coach. I work with about 2 people at a time, because that's about all I can handle with a full-time job. But I was having this conversation with one of my clients the other day about, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't eat whatever you want and still expect to get, probably the first 6 months or so, I was able to do that. I was very morbidly obese, and my metabolic rate adjusted itself over time down to the weight that I had lost. And so, I wasn't going to be able to maintain that kind of weight loss with that rapidity, eating that way all the time. But it's a mindset shift that happens. It's, I think, the wisdom of the body and naturally giving it a voice during the fasted state. It will begin to tell you, you don't need, cake and chips when we eat. You need some real food fuel. So that's been helpful for me too. I have really I just I wanted to learn and know as much as I could learn and know about a healthy lifestyle and share that with other people, because I literally if you look at pictures of me when I weighed 300 pounds, especially, I don't look like the same person at all. And I very proudly say it's because I'm not the same person. I'm a totally changed person.
I'm glad you brought up mindset, because I think when people start whatever journey they're on, their intermittent fasting, it's mindset is so important, but it's probably 30% or so of your own mindset that you want to achieve this goal. And, you're going to be stricter or whatever you have to be to get into this rhythm of intermittent fasting. But then
Yeah.
as your body heals, it's less imposed mindset, and it's your gut biome redefining how it is, and your hormones rebalancing, and the brain fog going away. And I think the mindset becomes so much easier as you go.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I don't know how many people I've worked with since I became a certified health coach, but one of the first things I ask these people that I work with is what is your why? Why are you doing this? You know, I mean, you are choosing to deny yourself of something pleasurable. I mean, let's just be honest, food and food and drugs and sex, and it's all the pleasure center of the brain. You're not dieting. You're choosing a different way, and a lot of people may be critical of you for this. What is your why for doing this? Everybody wants to lose weight, but not one single person has says, because I've got to lose 80 pounds, because I need to lose this last 20 pounds. It's always something like, because I am a 40-year-old woman who's unmarried and I want companionship, because I don't feel good about myself anymore, because I'm tired of being in pain all the time, because I want to be more active with my children. Uh, I had one client one time who said, because I want to be able to sit in an airplane in a regular seat and not have to have two, or not have to have the seatbelt extender. Um, you know, it's it weight loss is not, I mean, it really is secondary when you think about for the long haul. Why am I doing this? And mine is still because I do not ever want to live in that world where I mean, I had moments where I would literally chase a pain pill with a glass of wine so I could just pass out
That's a
in bed.
lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I was a functioning alcoholic. But out of sheer desperation, there were a few times that I did that, and I would cry myself to sleep because I thought, who have I become? And yes, getting the weight off is helpful. Okay. But after 2 weeks, when I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'd lost a pound or two. But after 2 weeks, I have such noticeable improvement in my levels of pain. There's nothing else that can do that for you. A pill doesn't do that for you. So, yes, getting the weight off is great, but the inflammation, keeping your inflammation low, we know now that inflammation is,
Evil.
that it is evil. It is what causes the neurodegenerative diseases, in the brain from high levels of inflammation in the body. It causes pain. It just burns our body up, inflamed. We are in flames inside our body. And that's, it's not a good thing. In chronic levels, I tell people we need a little bit of inflammation because that's what makes you, heal from a burn. And you can't see it, but I burned myself on the oven a month or so ago, and I've got a little scar there. That's inflammation is it has its place, but chronic inflammation is what we don't want.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you are where you are now.
Yeah.
I also gained some weight back during COVID. We think I had COVID like 5 times, Not that I'm competing with anybody, but
No, I've had it several too.
and but everything has come off again and probably more. I don't know what I am on the scale, but I use my clothes. The
Yes.
shirt I'm wearing right now, very fashionable, but 4 years ago I couldn't even button this shirt up, and now
Yeah.
it's big on me, and I need some shopping.
Yeah.
But the weight will come off when it's ready to
Yeah.
come off.
Yeah. Yeah, it will. I tell people when they first start, and you know this from Jen's group and from the book, some people even gain weight early on because it's like your body is holding on to everything just in case,
Mhm.
because it is a little bit of stress on the body. But then when it figures out, oh, we have this extra fuel we can burn, we've got some fuel in the butt, we got some fuel in the thighs, we've got some fuel in the arms, somebody must be I bet my son's at my door because my dog's barking. I'm sorry. But
Okay.
and once your body figures that out, then all of that is just gonna, you'll wake up one day and it will feel like, and I hope I'm explaining this in a way that makes sense to you, because this is how it felt to me. I woke up one day and it felt like I'd lost 10 pounds overnight.
You probably had a whoosh.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt it. I just knew it, and it's hard to explain that to people that don't understand. My friend April Hall, she calls it black magic. It's just yeah, the body knows what it's doing.
Mhm.
We just don't ever allow it to do what it needs to do because we're shoving food at it all the time.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a miracle. It's a phenomenon, and I have always said that I believe this was God's divine intervention in my life,
Mhm.
because I mean, I was at a place of I was just completely miserable. I couldn't ride in a car. I couldn't enjoy being with my family. I, if I was at home, I was just like complete misery. And so but I just believe it's the way our bodies were intricately designed to work. Even 100 years ago, there was food scarcity. Everybody didn't have a fridge and a freezer in their home. Uh, there was not a restaurant 5 minutes away from everybody. There was not fast food everywhere. There were not grocery stores. If I was really, really desperate, I could take out walking, and within 10 minutes, even from where I live, I could be somewhere where there would be food aplenty. And uh there are even places in the world that don't understand, this first world problem we have of too much food.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, it's a problem. And uh my mission is just to be an example, and to spread the word about intermittent fasting. I believe that with few exceptions, it's something that pretty much everybody can do and should be doing.
Mhm. So, Amy Jo, unfortunately, we're almost out of time. So, keeping in mind your mission is to get to as many people as you can to help them out. How would people get hold of
Well, of course, I have Facebook, Amy Jo Newton, Newton. That's my middle name. Holcomb. You can find me on Facebook. I'm in Jen's Delay Don't Deny community that she's built in the Circle app. And I have my own intermittent fasting support group. There are about 1,900 people I started it just for people to see what was going on with me instead of putting it on my personal Facebook page. But it's called What If, because that was like the rhetorical question. What
you?
if all you needed to do was just eat in a certain window of time? What if that's all it takes? And so I took that and the play on IF and intermittent fasting. It's called What If Intermittent Fasting Support. And you can find me and join my Facebook group. And there's a lot of us that post and ask questions and offer tips and share recipes and troubleshoot and all the things. But yeah, I would love to hear from people. Like I said, it's my passion, it's my mission. It changed my life. It's still changing my life, and I hope to change some other lives too.
Awesome. Amy Jo, thank you so much for coming on. This is way overdue. Could have done this like a year ago, but I guess we wouldn't have had part of your origin story if you had
Yeah,
done it a year ago.
it's funny because I own a comic shop too, by the way. My husband and I and my brother-in-law and my sister, we all own a comic shop. And so, yeah, I have to tell my husband that I told my superhero origin story today.
You'll have to get a costume and make a big poster
Yes,
and put it up in the shop.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. It's been nice to meet you face to face too, Fred.
Thank you so much. For everybody who's tuned in, thank you so much for joining the Dead Man Walking podcast. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and have yourself a wonderful week. Bye bye.